Have you ever been in love with someone who feels like they're right there with you one moment, warm, open, deeply connected, and then suddenly they vanish into thin air? You're left staring at the silence, wondering, what just happened? Did I do something wrong? This isn't about love disappearing overnight. It's about fear creeping in. It's about someone whose heart craves closeness but whose mind screams danger when intimacy gets too real. This is the life of a fearful avoidant, and if you or someone you love is caught in this cycle, then listen closely. Because the truth is, these patterns can quietly, subtly, and painfully destroy relationships from the inside out. But here's the empowering part. Once you recognize these behaviors, you no longer have to be a prisoner to them. You can break the cycle, you can rebuild connection, and you can stop letting fear dictate the story of your love life. Imagine this: you're finally getting close to someone. The walls are starting to come down, the laughter feels real, the late night talks feel safe, and for a brief moment, it feels like love is flowing the way it was always meant to. But suddenly, almost without warning, it changes. They pull away, they stop answering messages as quickly, they cancel plans, or they suddenly seem distant and detached. You feel like you're on top of the world one moment and drop from the sky the next. That is the heart of the push-pull cycle, and for someone with a fearful avoidant attachment, it is one of the most destructive patterns in a relationship. This cycle begins with a deep craving for intimacy. A fearful avoidant longs to feel closeness. Deep down, they want to be held, understood, and accepted without conditions. So they lean in. They might shower you with affection, show vulnerability, or create moments of true connection. And when it happens, it feels genuine because it is. But almost immediately, a second force kicks in: fear. That fear whispers, if I get too close, I'll get hurt. If I open up too much, I'll be abandoned. If I love too deeply, I'll lose myself. This fear doesn't come from the present moment. It comes from old wounds, past betrayals, childhood experiences of inconsistency or rejection. Yet it hijacks the present relationship, convincing the avoidant that danger is near. So, just as quickly as they leaned in, they pull back, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. Maybe they start answering with shorter texts. Maybe they stop sharing what's really going on inside. Maybe they create distance physically by avoiding touch or time together. To the partner, it feels like emotional whiplash. They wonder, what did I do wrong? Why are they shutting me out? Wasn't everything just fine yesterday? And the confusion grows. But here's what makes this cycle even more complicated: the avoidant partner still wants closeness. After pulling back, the loneliness creeps in. The silence feels heavy. The longing for connection returns. So they move toward their partner again, apologizing, opening up, showing warmth, reigniting the bond. And just when the partner begins to feel safe again, the cycle repeats: close, then distant; present, then absent; love, then fear. This back and forth dance creates a relationship where stability feels impossible. The partner often feels like they're walking on eggshells, never sure what will trigger the next withdrawal. And the avoidant, even though they don't want to hurt their partner, feels trapped in a loop they don't fully understand. The result is an exhausting cycle where both people are left feeling unsatisfied, unsteady, and unfulfilled. There is a kind of silence that doesn't bring peace, but instead creates tension so heavy it can be felt in the air. When a fearful avoidant partner feels triggered, that's often the silence they retreat into. Rather than saying, I feel overwhelmed, or I need space but I still love you, they shut down. They build invisible walls around themselves, convincing their partner that the safest choice is distance, not communication. And while silence may feel like protection to them, it feels like rejection to the person who loves them. The silence isn't about malice. It isn't about punishment. It's about fear. A fearful avoidance instinct tells them that speaking their feelings out loud is dangerous, that if they reveal too much, they'll be judged, criticized, or abandoned. So, instead of risking exposure, they retreat. The partner is left confused, replaying conversations in their mind, wondering what went wrong, and often blaming themselves for something they don't even understand. This lack of communication turns into a breeding ground for misunderstanding and resentment. The walls of withdrawal are often invisible at first. It may start with shorter responses, a lack of eye contact, or excuses to avoid meaningful conversations. Over time, those walls become higher and thicker. Days go by without addressing the real issue, and the silence between two people who care about each other becomes deafening. The partner begins to feel as though they're shouting into a void, desperate to be heard, desperate to be let in, but always being met with emotional barricades. What makes this even more painful is the mixed message it sends, because when the fearful avoidant is silent, it doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, deep down, they might be longing to break through that silence, to reach out, to connect, but the fear of conflict or rejection convinces them that shutting down is safer. To their partner, though, that silence screams indifference. It feels like abandonment. It feels like being invisible. And nothing erodes trust in a relationship faster than feeling like your presence doesn't matter. Over time, this withdrawal becomes a habit. It turns into the default response whenever emotions get heavy or intimacy feels too close. Instead of becoming a team who faces challenges together, the relationship becomes divided, one partner waiting anxiously for connection, the other hiding behind silence to avoid pain. This imbalance doesn't just cause frustration. It chips away at the very foundation of love, because relationships don't fall apart from one big fight. They collapse under the weight of countless unspoken words, the conversations that never happened, the feelings that were buried instead of shared. Imagine being in a relationship where every word, every glance, every small shift in tone feels like it could be a hidden message. For someone with a fearful avoidant attachment style, this is the reality. Their mind rarely rests. Instead of simply experiencing moments as they are scanning them, dissecting them, and trying to predict what could go wrong. When a partner says, "I'll call you later," it doesn't land as a casual promise. It becomes a puzzle piece in a larger fear-driven picture. What if they don't call? Does that mean they're losing interest? Did I say something wrong? Are they pulling away? This constant overthinking is exhausting, not only for them, but also for the relationship. The fearful avoidance brain is wired to look for danger in connection. They have learned, often from early experiences, that closeness can hurt, that love can turn cold, that promises can be broken. So even when their partner is being kind and consistent, the fearful avoidant struggles to trust it fully. They may replay conversations in their head, searching for signs of hidden rejection. They may read too much into a text that ended with a period instead of a smiley face, or assume that a moment of distraction means their partner is losing interest. The overthinking becomes a lens through which they see the relationship, distorting reality and creating problems that don't actually exist. What makes this cycle so destructive is that it often leads to self-fulfilling prophecies. If a fearful avoidant convinces themselves that their partner is pulling away, they might withdraw first to protect themselves. Their partner then feels the distance and begins to question the connection, which only confirms the fearful avoidant's suspicions. The very act of overthinking can create the disconnection they feared in the first place, and so the cycle tightens its grip, pulling both partners deeper into frustration and mistrust. From the outside, a partner might wonder why something so small can trigger such big reactions. To them, it might look like paranoia or unnecessary drama, but to the fearful avoidant, the danger feels real. Their nervous system is on high alert, scanning constantly for any sign of rejection or betrayal. It's not about logic, it's about survival. The sad truth is that while they are trying to protect themselves, they are unknowingly tearing down the very intimacy they crave. The partner of a fearful avoidant often feels like they can never relax, like they're under a microscope, their words and actions constantly being measured and judged. Over time, this creates pressure and resentment. The relationship begins to feel heavy, not because of what's actually happening, but because of the endless stories being written in the fearful avoidant's mind. Love becomes a battlefield, not between two people, but inside the mind of the one who cannot stop overthinking. It often happens at the very moment when things are finally starting to feel stable, when the relationship is flowing smoothly, when love feels safe. The fearful avoidant begins to sense danger in the very calmness they've been longing for. Instead of relaxing into it, they brace themselves for impact because deep down, stability feels too good to be true. That's when the sabotaging begins. It's not intentional cruelty. It's not a conscious choice to hurt the person they love. It's an unconscious defense mechanism built on the belief that love will eventually end in pain. So rather than wait for that pain to come, they create it first. The sabotage can take many forms. Sometimes it's picking fights over small issues, blowing minor disagreements out of proportion just to test whether the partner will stay or leave. Sometimes it's pulling away emotionally right when the bond feels strongest, leaving the other person confused and heartbroken. At other times, it's chasing distractions, work, friends, even unhealthy habits, so they don't have to fully lean into the relationship. It might even look like suddenly questioning the whole connection, saying things like, "I don't know if I'm ready for this," or "Maybe we're moving too fast," right when everything seemed to be moving in harmony. What's happening inside the fearful avoidant is a tug of war between desire and fear. They want the intimacy, the love, the security. But the voice inside them whispers, "If I let this last, I'll lose myself. If I trust this, it will betray me. If I relax, the rug will be pulled from under me." This constant anticipation of pain makes peace feel dangerous. So instead of enjoying love, they sabotage it before it can disappoint them. For their partner, this is incredibly confusing and painful. Imagine giving your best to someone, showing up with love, loyalty, and consistency, only to have them create problems that don't exist. You feel punished for caring. You feel rejected not because of anything you've done, but because of the battles they're fighting within themselves. It leaves you second-guessing your worth, wondering if you're the cause of the chaos, when in reality, you're simply caught in the crossfire of someone else's unresolved fear. The tragedy of sabotage is that it doesn't just block love in the moment, it erodes trust over time. A partner can only handle so many cycles of closeness followed by destruction before they start to shut down themselves. Eventually, the relationship begins to feel like a series of false starts, moments of light followed by storms, promises undone by fear. And while the fearful avoidant may believe they are protecting themselves from heartbreak, they are unknowingly creating the very heartbreak they dread most, losing the love they deeply desire but don't know how to fully hold on to. One of the most painful experiences in a relationship with a fearful avoidant is the constant swinging between warmth and distance, affection and detachment. It feels like being on an emotional roller coaster where you never quite know what's coming next. One day, the avoidant partner may be completely present, sharing tender words, offering deep intimacy, showering you with love that feels genuine and powerful. And then, almost without warning, that same partner can go cold. They may become distant, unresponsive, distracted, or even emotionally numb. This inconsistency is not just confusing, it's destabilizing. It leaves the other person questioning the reality of the entire relationship. When the avoidant is hot, their partner feels chosen, valued, and secure. The love feels real because it is real in that moment. The avoidant is letting themselves lean into what they truly want: connection, closeness, and intimacy. But when fear starts to creep back in, they shift. They fear that they're getting too close, that they're too vulnerable, or that if they continue opening up, they'll inevitably face pain or rejection. So they go cold as a way of regaining control. The sudden shift doesn't just confuse their partner, it creates deep emotional insecurity. The partner begins to wonder, did I do something wrong? Did their feelings change? Were they ever real in the first place? What makes this cycle particularly damaging is the unpredictability of it. Human beings crave emotional consistency. Trust is built not just on love, but on reliability, the certainty that your partner will show up for you emotionally, not just occasionally, but consistently. With a fearful avoidant, that certainty is often missing. The partner ends up walking on eggshells, never sure if they're going to be met with warmth or with a wall. Over time, this constant uncertainty begins to erode confidence, not only in the relationship, but in themselves. They may start to internalize the avoidant's behavior as a reflection of their own worth. For the fearful avoidant, however, this hot and cold pattern is rarely about a lack of love. It's about fear. When they are warm, they are showing their true desires. When they are cold, they are showing their defenses. They are torn between wanting to be loved and fearing the consequences of being loved. Unfortunately, the partner often feels the consequences most directly. What started as a loving bond begins to feel like emotional turbulence, a storm of mixed signals that never settles. Over time, this inconsistency can become the very thing that destroys the connection. A partner can only ride the roller coaster for so long before the exhaustion outweighs the hope. And that is the silent tragedy of the fearful avoidance hot and cold affection. The very defense that was meant to keep them safe ends up pushing away the very love they most deeply crave. At the deepest level, one of the greatest struggles for someone with a fearful, avoidant attachment style is the fear of being truly seen. To let another person fully in, to reveal the hidden wounds, the insecurities, the raw emotions, feels terrifying. On the surface, they may appear strong, independent, or even guarded. But underneath that surface lies a childlike fear that if someone gets too close, they'll discover something unlovable, something unworthy, something that will make them turn away. And so, instead of opening up fully, the fearful avoidant learns to wear masks. These masks can take many forms. Sometimes it's the mask of perfection, always trying to appear in control, successful, or unbothered. Other times, it's the mask of detachment, pretending that emotions don't matter, that closeness isn't needed, that they're fine on their own. At times, it may even look like charm, humor, or distraction, keeping the spotlight away from their deeper truth. On the outside, everything seems fine, but on the inside, the avoidant is carrying a constant fear. If they really knew me, they wouldn't stay. This fear of being seen creates distance even in moments of closeness. A partner may feel that something is missing, as though they are only allowed to know a part of their avoidant partner, but never the whole. Conversations may feel shallow when they could be deep. Vulnerable moments may be shut down quickly with a joke or a change of subject, and attempts to connect on a deeper emotional level may be met with withdrawal. To the partner, it can feel like being kept outside a locked door, always sensing that there's more inside but never being allowed to enter. The tragedy here is that intimacy, the very thing the fearful avoidant longs for, is impossible without authenticity. Real love requires being seen, flaws and all. It requires saying, "This is who I am, and I trust that you'll still accept me." But for the avoidant, that level of vulnerability feels unsafe. Their past experiences have taught them that being seen often leads to pain, rejection, abandonment, or betrayal. So they keep parts of themselves hidden, believing it's the only way to survive. For the partner, this hiddenness feels like a barrier to true connection. They may love the avoidant deeply but feel like they're in love with only fragments, never the whole. They may sense the unspoken emotions, the unshared stories, and the unexpressed fears, yet feel powerless to reach them. Over time, this lack of openness creates a quiet loneliness within the relationship. Two people can be physically together but emotionally worlds apart. The cost of hiding is high. By avoiding vulnerability, the fearful avoidant prevents the very healing they crave. They rob themselves of the chance to discover that true love doesn't require perfection. It requires presence, honesty, and the courage to be known. Yet until they confront that fear of being seen, they continue living behind walls, longing for connection while keeping the door to real intimacy locked shut. There is a moment in every journey where awareness becomes the turning point. For someone with a fearful avoidant attachment style, that moment comes when they realize that their patterns, though painful and destructive, are not permanent sentences. They are behaviors learned from the past, defenses built in moments of survival, but not unchangeable truths. And when that awareness takes root, it creates an opportunity for growth unlike anything else. What once felt like a curse can become a calling, the chance to transform fear into strength and distance into genuine connection. Growth begins with honesty. It begins with the courageous act of looking in the mirror and admitting, yes, I push people away. Yes, I build walls. Yes, I sabotage the love I crave, but I see it now. That acknowledgement is powerful because it breaks the illusion that the avoidant is a helpless victim of their instincts. Awareness gives them choice, and with choice comes freedom. The fearful avoidant no longer has to repeat the old dance of closeness and retreat. They can begin to rewrite the steps. But growth doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens in small, consistent acts of courage. It might look like staying present in a moment when the instinct is to shut down. It might look like saying, "I feel scared," instead of disappearing in silence. It might mean leaning into trust, even when the heart pounds with doubt. Each of these moments becomes a victory, a brick laid in the foundation of a healthier relationship. For their partner, this growth can be deeply inspiring. To witness someone confront their fears and choose love over avoidance is to witness transformation at its core. It builds a different kind of intimacy, not the fragile kind that crumbles at the first sign of fear, but the resilient kind that deepens through challenge. Relationships that survive this growth don't just endure, they thrive. They carry a richness and authenticity that can't be found on the surface because both partners have fought for it together. And the most powerful truth is this: the very struggles that once destroyed relationships can become the catalyst for creating extraordinary ones. The push-pull cycle, the silence, the overthinking, the sabotage, the hot and cold affection, the fear of being seen, all of it can be transformed into opportunities for deeper connection, clearer communication, and greater self-awareness. What once felt like weakness becomes strength because the avoidant learns that love is not about running from fear, but about facing it. When that shift happens, the fearful avoidant stops being a prisoner of their past and becomes the author of their future. They begin to discover that connection is not something to fear, but something to embrace. And in that discovery lies the greatest gift of all, the freedom to love fully, openly, and without apology. Would you like me to now combine all expanded points into one flowing, polished speech script so you can use it directly for a long-form motivational video? When we look at these patterns, the push-pull cycle, the walls of silence, the endless overthinking, the sabotage, the hot and cold affection, the fear of being seen, and the hidden opportunity for growth, one truth becomes undeniable: relationships are not destroyed overnight. They are worn down slowly, piece by piece, by the habits we carry and the fears we refuse to face. And for the fearful avoidant, those fears are powerful. They whisper that love is unsafe, that closeness equals danger, and that vulnerability is a risk too great to take. But if fear can shape behavior so powerfully, then courage can reshape it just the same. The very first step toward change is awareness. Awareness shines a light into the shadows where fear thrives. It reveals the cycles that once felt invisible, the unconscious choices that quietly kept love at arm's length. And once you see those patterns, you can no longer pretend they aren't there. That moment of recognition, though painful, is the beginning of freedom, because you cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. But once you acknowledge it, healing becomes possible. And healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's not about erasing fear entirely or pretending that the past never happened. Healing is about learning to respond differently. It's about realizing that the walls you built to protect yourself are now the very barriers keeping you from the love you crave. It's about recognizing that the sabotage, the silence, the inconsistency, all of it was never proof that you are unworthy of love, but proof that you were scared of losing it. And once you realize that fear doesn't have to make the decisions anymore, you begin to take your power back. For the partner who loves someone with a fearful avoidant style, the conclusion is equally important. You are not crazy for feeling the ups and downs, for questioning your worth, for wondering why love feels so unstable. You've been caught in a cycle that isn't about your value. It's about your partner's battle with themselves. Understanding that truth doesn't mean tolerating pain forever, but it does mean seeing the patterns for what they are: fear, not rejection; protection, not indifference. And in that understanding, you too find power, the power to choose compassion, boundaries, and clarity about what you deserve. The hopeful truth is this: change is not only possible, it is inevitable when awareness is paired with courage. No one is destined to repeat these cycles forever. A fearful avoidant can learn to lean in instead of pull away, to speak instead of retreat, to trust instead of sabotage, to stay consistent instead of unpredictable, and to open their heart instead of hiding behind masks. And when that transformation happens, love is no longer something to fear. It becomes something to protect, to nurture, and to fully embrace. So let this be the final message. Fear may have written the first chapters of your love story, but it doesn't have to write the ending. The past may explain why you protect yourself, but it does not define what you are capable of creating. Love is not meant to be a battlefield. It is meant to be a sanctuary. And the moment you decide to stop running from intimacy and start facing your fear is the moment you begin to experience love in its truest form. That choice, to rise above fear, is the choice that will not only save your relationships but transform your entire life. Thank you for watching and for taking the time to invest in your own growth and awareness. Remember, every step you take toward understanding yourself or your partner brings you closer to deeper, healthier, and more fulfilling relationships. If this message touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You never know how powerful one spark of awareness can be in changing someone's life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next motivational video. Your support means the world, and it helps keep this message of healing and empowerment alive. Until next time, keep choosing courage over fear, love over withdrawal, and connection over silence. You have the power to change your story, and your journey is just beginning. Thank you once again, and goodbye for now. Stay strong, stay inspired, and keep moving forward.